I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the delegates were elected on the basis of the old malapportioned legislature. And did that have much effect on things, or do you think it mattered much?
I don't think it mattered much.
Yeah. But the three groups were the conservative Republicans, the George Romney Republicans, and the Democrats.
Right.
And about equal number, the three.
And about equal numbers.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do anything without making a deal with one of the groups. And we were constantly making various relationships. We were bitter enemies at one time and good friends on another issue.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah. That's the important thing, was that it worked.
Yes.
I think that's interesting with all your, shall I say, academic background, Kalamazoo College, Columbia University, and so on. Maybe your experience in the mayor's office got you to be very practical.
Oh, I think my experience as in the mayor's office, and I think equally the experience I had as a county supervisor. We called them supervisors then rather than commissioners. And I learned a tremendous amount by being on the Board of Supervisors of Kalamazoo County.
We haven't mentioned that before. How were supervisors selected at that time?
The supervisors then were selected by election from the various townships in Kalamazoo County, but the city automatically used its city councilman, used one member who could be on the Board of Supervisors, and they selected me as mayor.
One member of the city council,
yes,
could be on the Board of Supervisors.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you were both on the Board of Supervisors at the same time you were being mayor.
Right, right. And when we would hold our meetings in the Board of Supervisors, we were paid $15 a day, but if we only worked a half a day, we got, I think, $7.50. So always our meetings were carried over until afternoon.
You didn't have to punch in and out. Well then, Judge, let's talk about after George Romney was elected governor. What happened in that period?
George Romney appointed me to be a director of the budget. The technical term at that time was controller, not comptroller, but controller. And I was automatically the secretary to the State Administrative Board and State Budget Director. My official title was State Controller. And I was in charge of and would call the meetings of the State Administrative Board all during the time I served with George Romney.
And did you attend those meetings regularly?
And I attended those meetings. I had a very fine I actually, although I had the title of secretary, I didn't sit there and take all the notes. I used my own secretary, Doris Barber, a wonderful lady who had been the secretary for my predecessor, Ira Polly. And she would sit with me in the meetings in the governor's office and take all the notes and write them up.
Tell me more about Ira Polly. Did you know him very well?
I didn't know Ira Polly until I came to Lansing. George Romney was to take office January 1st, 1963. And I had been appointed right about Thanksgiving time by Romney to be his new budget director. I came and made an inquiry, how are you doing on the budget, Ira? And he said, I haven't done anything. There's a new governor, and I think I shouldn't do anything. I haven't done anything. Well, we almost panicked because here it was, already Thanksgiving and nothing had been done on the budget. And I said, we start right now. I took off my coat and I sat down at the table and we started on that budget.
You and Ira Polly.
No, without Ira Polly.
Without Ira Polly.
No, but I used Ira Polly's two chief lieutenants, Dick Beers and Paul Wilden, and various members of the Office of Management and Budget.
But you were acting.
Who were, without them, we couldn't have done it.
So you started acting as budget director, even though the governor.
Even though I wasn't.
Even though you weren't until January.
Uh-huh.
Well, that sounds interesting. So then you're budget director. You want to tell us a little bit more about what happened as budget director?
Well, we did very well under on our budgets, particularly Romney's first year. We had the budget completed and voted on well before the middle of June. And we had excellent cooperation from the Democrats also in that first year. While I was budget director, we never had a deficit. But I'm not going to take the credit for it because we had a strong economy, and JFK was president, and we had just as we do today, we had a strong economy going, and that helped us.
When you say the Democrats worked with you, was that the staff people or the legislators or both?
Both.
Who was it was Joe Kowalski? Who was the Democratic leader then?
Kowalski.
Kowalski, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Joe happened to be my best friend, incidentally. So.
Yeah. Well, the first year, Bill Ryan. And then Kowalski.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And Bill Ryan was very helpful.
Bill Ryan was he read every bill. Joe Kowalski had his staff read the bills.
That's right.
Well, that's another.
But we also had a new speaker. We had Bob Waldron.
Oh, yes.
Who turned out to be excellent.
Yeah. Bob Waldron, I know, was very conscientious.
Yes.
We see him from now and then. So then that was your experience as budget director. How many years were you budget director?
8 years.
And that was under the Romney administration?
That was under the Romney administration.
Then how did you become a judge?
When Bill Milliken became governor, Romney in February of 1969 was appointed by Nixon to be head of, I'm trying to think of it now. I've lost my, and he went to Washington. Bill Milliken immediately became governor.
Yeah.
I served.
He'd been lieutenant governor
for a few months as still as budget director, but then Milliken named John Dempsey as state budget director and controller and made me his legal advisor. Yeah. So I served with Milliken for 3 years as his legal advisor, and a vacancy occurred.
Yeah.
In the Supreme Court, to which Milliken appointed John Fitzgerald.
Now, what all, as legal advisor, what all did you do in that role? Legal advisor to Governor Milliken.
What other advisors?
No, what did you do?
I served in a double capacity as legal advisor and also as legislative advisor. I did a lot of work on the floor with the House and Senate members, trying to steer legislation that Milliken favored through, and opposing that which he opposed.
Yeah. And there you worked on a bipartisan
And the
basis.
reason I was in that role is I was the only senior member of the Romney staff that carried over to the Milliken administration. So I had a lot of acquaintanceship with legislators that no one else on the new Milliken staff